Soften your senses. Ways to become a better speaker, listener, and follower. This episode brought to you by Sauerman Group. Add a digital edge to your combustion analysis. Learn more at sauermangroup.com. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us once again. We are still here at the National HVACR Education Conference. Tyler, I think I probably went through like 30, 35 podcasts.
Yeah, I'm sure you have, and I'm surprised you actually have vocal cords left and brain matter for that matter.
And you know, that is the insane part about this conference is the whole brain matter, because it's almost like that kid walking into the great big candy store, and then you're like, oh, it's all this visual. And then they say, oh, and by the way, it's all here for you. Take what you want.
It's like too much stimulation, and then you're having shiny object syndrome at the same time. You just pivot from one thing to the next, one thing to the next. You're like, I got to keep myself on a little bit of a path and get a little bit of a focus here.
Oh, it's that's a great way to present it. So you did a class, and I've heard so much about it already from people coming in here, and I go, oh, you don't know Tyler Nelson from Sauerman yet? And they're like, oh, I had no idea. You are just one of the most passionate people. I just love hanging out with you. Honestly, I love watching you. Like when I sat into that class at AHR, it's like, oh man, this is my kind of dude. He's 100% in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoy my position in the industry. I enjoy my position with my company, with Sauerman, and the opportunities that have been provided to me, and to be able to pay back and give back to those that have helped me, and to do it in like fashion and to pay it forward has been one of the highlights of my career for sure. And it's an opportunity that I savor, and it's a path that I'm on now, and that's the trajectory that I'm on, and I feel very confident with it and comfortable with it, and I feel very honored to be selected to do it.
No, you're definitely the guy for it. So let's talk about your passion. Let's dive a little bit deeper, and let's help shed some light into some not always well-educated topics.
Sure. So for us, and for me, the way that I look at training now differently than I did in the past. Training when I was a contractor was something that we barely made time for, not had time for, made time for. We did not make it a priority. And we slowly watched our competition surpass us. And then when I got out of contracting and I went into this side of the business and I visited other companies as I was training them, I got to see how important it was for them and to see where it took them in a standing in our industry, and how the best companies out there trained. And they also had the best employees. And it got me to thinking, the path upward and the path onward for us as an industry going forward revolves around training. It needs to be a priority. You can see it in your conference here and how it's grown exponentially year by year. We topped out at 1,200 people this year at this conference, and it's everybody going after the same educational thirst and hunger for everything. And it's become a movement into itself. So when we approach it now, myself and the other trainers, I think we're seeing that now. It's a growing trend, and it's a way to generate business if you're a manufacturer, or you're an equipment manufacturer or a tool manufacturer like myself, to provide training. But it's also a way to educate. But it's also a way, if you're a contractor, if you're going to train, it's a way for you to increase your bottom line, because you're going to attract better employees that are going to want to work for you because you're providing them a proper platform for training.
That's such a good point when we talk about the attraction of those, high providing employees, those hungry employees that are out there, because there are a lot of them.
There are.
And some of them get in places where they don't feel like they're developing. And it's such a shame that people are in those environments, and then they realize that, man, I'm not getting to where I feel like I should be, because I know that there's more to learn. And so we have to be aware of, what that training looks like, and high quality training, right?
Right. And I think in the past with our industry, people looked at us a little bit differently, because we would come home at the end of the day with our fingers a little bit dirty, and they always thought that we're the ones that sat in the back of shop class and failed. Well, now with the technology that we're utilizing, and the technology that's in their homes for them to take advantage of and be comfortable with, I think they're slowly starting to realize that, hey, these people are a lot smarter than we thought. They pay, because we pay our taxes just like they do. Our kids play sports next to their kids. So we're no different, but we're not the ones that sat in the back of shop class and failed. We're the ones that actually want to do well. The people in this industry have been fixing things since they were kids.
Oh,
They're a very humble group. They don't know that what they're doing is something that most people can't do, which is great because it keeps us humble. However, it is an interesting position to be in now, especially with technology. So now with the technology we're utilizing and using, we are meeting our customer base where they're at. So now the playing field has been leveled. There is significant sophistication in everything that we're installing and everything we're working with and the tools that we're using as it is in our customers' lives in their own vocations and in their own professional endeavors. And I think that that's kind of that's been the linchpin to kind of draw everybody together, where now the HVAC contractor is not looked upon as a necessary evil that lives under the steps that nobody wants to pay attention to, and just call them out twice a year, if you even call them out twice a year for maintenance.
We've seen this year in particular at our conference a very high amount of distributors and contractor trainers that are here. I've even seen one of the local contractor trainers from my own area. I'm like, wait a minute. I know you guys. You've got your own training program. And then I went, of course they're here, because we have contractors that are elevating their professionalism. They're aware of the technological transitions, the refrigerant transitions. They're aware of the importance for high efficiency service, right? Not just a clean and go, let's take a look at this system and get the maximum performance out of it. Like we probably should have been doing the entire time, but we really didn't. And tools and technology have made that so much faster that it has become to the point where it is absolutely able to be common practice during a standard service.
Absolutely. And the primary drivers of what we bring are simply this: comfort and safety. Everybody wants to be comfortable. Clifton, they're spending more times in their houses than they've ever spent before. COVID notwithstanding, everybody wants to be comfortable. Everybody wants proper humidity, proper this, proper that. And they're Googling, how do I get my house more efficient? All these things the HVAC contractor is able to do, but the contractor themselves has to look beyond the bridge of their nose and understand there's a three initial word, IAQ, indoor air quality, that they have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
They have to understand the IAQ side of things. They have to understand the whole comfort. They have to understand the house as an envelope, as an ecosystem where things function in an ecosystem, not mutually exclusive unto themselves. They have to behave nice in the sandbox with the way that the house is designed. They can't have a house too tight. They can't have a house too loose. They have to have proper duct sizing and everything else. We have to look at it that way. It can't just be, as you had said, just a quick clean and check and get the heck out of there. It has to be a proper evaluation. And one of the things that these instructors here, and then when they were contractors and the contractors to be, or that are coming to these classes, they're inheriting new customers every day. When you're inheriting a new customer, you're inheriting that previous contractor's craftspersonship, for better or for worse. If they're making a pitching change, it's usually for the worse. So I would encourage anybody taking on a new customer to do a full assessment of that equipment. Show them, not to point the finger, but show them what was missed in the past. Show them what they can do to improve their system and become more comfortable. If you go under the auspices of hands above the table and doing it the right way and showing how you can increase their comfort, I think you're going to have a long-lasting relationship with your customer.
Yeah, that is such a good point. And as we start seeing those migrations, as we start seeing those new opportunities, let's think about just like the whole combustion analysis side of a gas furnace. If that new customer has had a skill level that may not have been sufficient in the past, can you imagine taking that first opportunity with that new customer and go, by the way, because it's an uncomfortable transition sometimes. We've seen a lot of private equity purchasing and investing into smaller contractors, bring them into larger contractor groups. And many of those groups actually have incredibly high standards and practices. And so if we look at that as, okay, we got a homeowner that has been very comfortable with their contractor for a long period of time. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to be making a transition into a larger company, and they may feel like they're not getting, the service that they had in the past. But in reality, they actually have a potential to have a higher level of service.
Well, certainly, agreed. And they get the ability to have the actual needs analysis done on all their equipment. And that's one of the things that's been lacking, is that we're not properly assessing equipment. A unique take on this I heard yesterday, and when you're talking about educating homeowners. Donald Baker, who's a very supportive person. He's actually here at the convention or at the conference, and he's based up in Canada. And I just saw him last week at the CMPX as well. I saw him last week. He had said an interesting concept would be for us as trainers to go to some of these home shows, like for combustion, and put on a class for homeowners. Say, listen, if your contractor isn't doing this, you're missing the boat. There are contractors that are doing it. And if you want, we can give you a list, or we can point you in the right direction, so that when the contractor comes out to the house and they're not doing combustion, the homeowner's like, aren't you missing a tool? Aren't you supposed to have an analyzer with you? Why are you not doing that? I went to an educational presentation that they told me that's what should be done in my system. It's going to be properly diagnosed, because combustion analysis is like doing the blood work on a body. The blood work doesn't lie. It tells you the state and health of you when the blood work is done on you, despite outward appearances. Same thing with combustion analysis. You cannot deny that it shows the state of the health of that piece of equipment, despite outward appearances and despite how it sounds.
Man, well, think about that. If we actually took a moment to start focusing towards the contractors and start focusing towards the consumers about the benefits of it, it changes the whole structure.
It does. And that was when he brought that up, that was like an aha moment for me.
Yeah, I see that.
And I've had a lot of them. But for me to bring it up on a podcast like this, that's how big it was. So kudos to Donald for bringing that up. It was interesting, and I think that's something that we can look to run with, and it might open doors for everybody.
I think it's supposed to happen, because I keep getting this from different perspectives. I was sitting down with Chris Halschiltz yesterday when we were talking about carbon monoxide safety, and she said, we have a canary suit that we do for educational outreach. I could see you doing a consumer-based video on the importance of utilizing it. And I went, my son's a firefighter, and he actually wore their own costume to the football games, trying to promote fire safety.
Right.
Is it time we start focusing towards the consumer?
Yeah.
Consumer awareness from our own industry perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And carbon monoxide safety is a very important topic nowadays, with everybody spending more time indoors, and I'm part of the National Coalition for Carbon Monoxide Awareness now. And I had asked them, because years ago, my stepfather passed away in 2003 from glioblastoma, which is brain cancer. And he worked in the Navy in the boiler rooms and everything else, got all his licenses, and then did that as a professional. And we worked for a utility when he got out. And when he passed away, some people had approached my mother saying, he worked in areas where he didn't have the proper PPE. We think there might have been an issue there with things that he was taking into his body. And she goes, listen, I just want to bury my husband, the whole 9 yards. So fast forward to December of this year, I asked the coalition, I said, any relationship to this? And their jaws dropped, because we're on a Teams call, their jaws dropped. They said, we just had data come back that said, out of when people that have been in the service industry like this, like yours, or HVAC, if they have brain cancer, it's glioblastoma, and the leading cause, which has been ascertained, is from exposure to carbon monoxide that they were not aware of.
No way.
So it was very, very spooky to me to hear that, because when they looked at me, it's as if I was eavesdropping on their meeting that they had just had. They're like, that, and they told me, they said that whatever they told your mother back in 2003 has a lot of weight to it, and we would basically agree the fact that is a high potential that's what happened to him. And contracting firms need to understand that they have to provide the proper PPE. If a technician gets sick, OSHA standards and legal proceedings state that they can actually pursue the contractor because you did not give your staff member the proper protective gear, whether it's an analyzer or a personal CO monitor, because you're supposed to provide them with proper protective gear to actually do their job.
That's a whole nother show.
It's a whole nother show.
Wow.
And the folks at NCI had alerted me to that. I was not aware of that. So compliments to David Holt for mentioning that to me. That is, with OSHA standards, they have to provide the proper PPE to the employee or to their technicians to be able to do their job. We now lead the field in carbon monoxide poisonings in all the service industries with issues with it. And it used to be oil and gas. Oil and gas is very much open air now. So it's not as prevalent in oil and gas as it was before. And a lot of those people already have to have a personal protective monitor on their person when they do their job. But in here, it's like passe. And everybody's reliant, Clifton, on the customer's carbon monoxide detector to keep them safe.
Isn't that crazy?
people are going to choose the cheapest one
Always.
because they get no social mileage out of it. It's not a nice car. It's not a nice lawn. It's not something they can show to their friends. It's Starbucks. It's on their wrist or on their finger. It's the dirty secret, as I said before, with maintenance that lives under the steps. They're going to pick the cheapest thing out there. They're going to get it at a big box store, and it's going to be ineffective. And the technicians are reliant on that to keep them safe. And they're going after the wrong brass ring if they're doing that. They need to protect themselves, take personal responsibility, as do the contracting firms.
I think we could just sit and talk for hours.
We can.
I truly do.
We've had these conversations before, and that's why we I guess you would say, vibe well together.
Oh my gosh.
Because there's so many layers to what we do, and that's the other thing when we talk about how our industry has evolved. Just look at the layers of the conversation that we've started this morning. That's nothing compared to the other conversations that are being had by everybody that's out there in front of us and going into these different conference rooms.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to it.
It's like we're all speaking the same language, and we're finally sitting around together going, oh my goodness, we've all been speaking the same language. We need to speak this together.
Right. Yeah. It's like we didn't know it.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't know it. And it was interesting to hear or see somebody from Daikin on stage this morning and somebody from Fujitsu on stage this morning, which are competitors of one another.
Absolutely.
But playing very well, very nicely in the sandboxing, having fun together.
Yeah.
You know, I've had fun with my fellow competitors that have been here. They've been very gracious to me, and I've been very gracious to them. And we all realize there's a very large pie out there, and there's enough pie for everybody. And as long as we spill no blood and speak, you know, kindly and gently of one another, that's how we should conduct ourselves as professionals out there. That you know, the whole industry will be a better place because it starts with us, and then it trickles its way down to how people see us behave.
Indeed.
You know, it's like leading the charge. You know, and they say to themselves, I'm sure the contractors see it, and they say, you know, if I'm talking to Louise from UEI, or I'm talking to the folks at Crocon, you know, if these two can talk together and have nice conversations and have smiles on their faces, then we can actually get along as contractors and competitive firms better.
Yeah.
And we can, you know, be nicer to one another and kinder to one another.
Tyler Nelson, Sauerman. How do people connect with Sauerman?
Connect with Sauerman. We have our Sauerman.com, I should believe. Sauerman, I think it's /US. Caught me off guard there for a second. So on online, and then we have my LinkedIn. We also have our own LinkedIn, Sauerman Americas. We're on LinkedIn as well, and then my LinkedIn profile as well to connect with me. So we have that, and then we have, you know, the trainings that we do. So there's information on our site for different trainings, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn to set up a training for your company. My territory is all the Americas, so depending where you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this, I could probably travel to you, and I also do this virtually for other people around the world as well, so globally.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Clifton. I appreciate the opportunity.